All right, guys, welcome back to the Sex and Bacon podcast. On today's episode, I have the lovely guest, Christina Michael. And today we are going to talk about sex and cannabis and see where this conversation takes us. So, welcome, Christina. Thank you for being here.
Hi, Sarah. Thanks for having me. I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
absolutely. So, I'm excited to have this conversation. I haven't had this conversation with anybody yet. So, do you want to kind of share with us a little bit about your background and how you got into this and why it's something you're passionate about? And then, yeah.
Sure. I've been in business for myself for 10 years doing projects, project management and marketing and promotion. And about 6 years ago, almost 7 years ago now, I was lucky enough to get a project in the CBD industry with a CBD beverage. And I started learning so much more about cannabis applications, medical cannabis, the benefits of cannabis. We're not allowed to talk about that in the recreational side, but really it came forward that I've been a cannabis consumer since I was in my teens, and light sometimes, heavy other times, and experimenting with different cannabis strains and so on. And in 2013, my best friend was diagnosed with breast cancer. And I started to dive into learning way more about medical cannabis. So when 2016 came around, and I had a lot of experience in terms of understanding how cannabis could actually benefit our immune systems, our quality of life, our medical, resolving some medical issues and aiding in some obviously end of life care. That's when suddenly something came up for me, and the universe provided. And fast forward since then, I went directly into the Canadian cannabis space and have been working with brands, retail, licensed producers, micro cultivators, CPGs, doing marketing, branding, strategic planning. And there's been some amazing evolutions in the last 4 years and some incredible products out there that I don't think people really know about. I know
Hmm.
firsthand when I go to parties and I bring samples for things and social share. People are like, I didn't know this existed. So, if anything, I'd like to move some conversation towards like what other products other than inhalation products are out
Hmm.
there that are really great for women too.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, compared to what it is that we would naturally or normally see, because I mean, like I've gone into the stores and I've bought things before. My goal has always been more sleep related and stuff. But I know that there is so many different things out there and they're labeled so many different things. Like I've seen now there's like CBD, CBG, CBN, but they all kind of seem like they do something different. So what specifically, which certain products is it that, would be more beneficial for women or for women related issues?
Yeah, I made a note of a few companies that I really like in the space, and I stopped smoking cannabis 3 years
Mm-hmm.
ago. So typically, I start going towards the edibles and the topicals and the beverages and the fun things like that. So there's a great company out in Alberta that is owned by Rebecca and Olivia. It's called Prairie Grass, and they were one of the original companies that started doing the Eve pods and the bud drops, and those are the Eve pods are suppository that can be used vaginally, and they're great for symptoms for PMS and menstrual cramps and menopause and having sex, and they're
Really?
fantastic. So I would, yeah, so those are really great products
Okay.
that people don't know are
No.
out there anymore. um, Blunt Botanicals. Jill is a longtime legacy creator and formulator, and she has some stuff that's just starting to come back into the regulated space with her joint ointments. So I know I use that for, I'm in perimenopause, and I use that for joint pains and migratory
Mm-hmm.
pains and things like that are amazing. She's got some great products. I'm hoping she's going to bring back into the regulated space, like a bath melt
Mm-hmm.
that just is amazing to chill out. Imagine Mercer, Shauna, and Susie. They're creating so many amazing products that are really specific to the female market. So they have some awesome products like um, they have a few different CBD products. The Bon Nuit, which is great for sleep if you're having some sleep troubles. They have their La Cama, and then they have their face cream. So they're looking at some beauty products in there, and things like
Mhm.
that, which are awesome. And one of my absolute favorites of all time is the Stewart Farms bath bombs. Katrina and Genevieve that are there formulated these bath bombs, and they literally melt your day away. And when you're not feeling well, they're amazing. They make your skin feel like a dolphin when you get out. And I always say to a lot of my friends, if I give them a bath bomb, I'm like, you know what? Just shave your legs and
Mhm.
bath. Like you come out and you feel like $1 million, and you don't need all these extra products and stuff like that.
So are all of the
Yeah.
products that you were speaking of, are they ones like I know you said some of them aren't regulated. That means you wouldn't be able to purchase them in a store. You would have to kind of go directly to the company or to the women manufacturing them and order online.
Well, all of the products I mentioned are available in the regulated
Mhm.
space. There's some products that were previously available in the pre-legalization space that have been taken off the shelves now, that are starting to come back into the market as we're seeing some consumers, starting to learn a little bit more about kind of different formats of cannabis that are out
Mhm.
there. So I highly recommend everybody looks online for regulated cannabis stores that are, buying products, especially if you're thinking about inserting something, and you're getting sexy with your partner and you're doing some fun things to get intimate. You don't want to be buying products that are not created in a quality
Mhm.
controlled environment, that are lab tested and things like that. I know in the past that was kind of a free for all, but I think there's some. I recently bought lube last year, thinking, hey, this is going to be great. And yeah, my partner was like reading the box and was like, we can't use this. And, it ended up being useless to us because it said, only use topically. Well, what's the point of lube if you're going to just
Yeah.
like, rub it on your
Yeah.
skin and hope for the best, right? It's just like, so yeah, that was a huge disappointment. So, those are things to just watch out for when you're buying products,
So do these
and what the
products
ingredients are.
I guess a lube or say the suppositories that you were talking about that are made from it, is there any residual effects of getting high from any of it? Or is it strictly more CBD quality kind of used? Like what is
Yeah, most of them are high
okay.
CBD content, low THC content, and ultimately, there's layers upon layers
Mm-hmm.
of your, epidermis that has to penetrate through to get you high. So, if anything, you're going to feel a relaxed, calming sort of effect versus a, neurological effect that you get from
Okay.
THC. From feeling that psychological, or the psychotropic effect that you're going to get from using THC. So like any topicals, unless you have like, an abrasion or
Mm-hmm.
something like that, it's not going to seep into your bloodstream, and that you'd have to have a lot
Yeah, because I know
of.
that's, like, for a lot of people who maybe d are like that's a fear, right? Could you imagine you take something, use something meant to kind of for a different benefit, and then you're getting a little bit of a buzz off it. I know I get super paranoid with anything like with THC, so I love CBD products and things like that, but yeah, there's a very thin line for me. So, does it help increase then, like, I think you were saying, like, a woman's sex drive? Can some of those the ones that go vaginally, like, does it help increase that? What is the main thing? Like, if a woman is kind of
There's Yeah, there's some anecdotal research that's been going on, especially in the states. But I wouldn't say anything is really proven to
mhm,
increase your sex drive. I think there's elements about increasing your sex drive that you can add
mhm,
some THC and some CBD, and have some sort of intimacy there that is going to promote sex drive. And foreplay is never
mhm.
underrated. So definitely, I think you can create a mood, you can create an experience, you can create some intimacy, and that's definitely, if your partner's super into you and you're having this great experience together, I think your sex drive's naturally going to go in that
That's true.
direction. But there's other things, yeah, and there's other things like with the suppositories. I know for lots of women who are experiencing hormonal problems, and PMS, and pre-post period, menopause and things, or sex hurts or anything like that. I think those things are great, and they're quality controlled, and they're produced in a regulated environment, so they're safe. And do a little bit of research, and if you're concerned, reach out to the company itself. everyone in the cannabis space is happy to talk to any consumer
Yeah.
to support
It's
them.
interesting that,
Yeah.
that's kind of the way that the products have kinda gone, like, just like you said, things that you wouldn't see advertised anywhere, you wouldn't know where to get that information from. It's kinda nice, though, the thing that I like about stuff like that is that it is natural. I find, like, it's compared to buying, say, a lube off the shelf or something else or trying medications or things from, like, a doctor, I think I do like that it's, like, there's a natural place that you can go first to try something, for some different effects before, if a person had to say go another route, but you can try these things first and see how your body reacts, see how if you like them. And I just think it's healthier for us.
Yeah, and I think that, we talk about anxiety so much and depression and, mental health issues, body
Mhm.
issues, all of those things, different concepts around what's happening with, our hormonal
Mhm.
fluctuations and stuff. There's some great products, in the States, they have quite a few, like Foria is great. They really specifically work a lot with um, women's products like patches you can put on your abdomen and things like that, right? So there's some cool stuff that I've used. 40 Acre Blends has an awesome muscle roller. And if I'm not feeling well, I'll just
Mhm.
roll that all over my stomach. And it just gives me this really nice calming sensation. And psychologically, that kind of makes me feel more relaxed. And then I kind of calm down and then I'm less cranky. And, all of those things come into play. So, yeah, I think, nowadays we're just starting to talk about it. And I think, especially with women, we buy 80% of the household
Mhm.
purchases. We make 80% of the household decisions. I think we need to be talking way more to women about what's going on with different natural products out there, instead of, you know, going to buy your Midol on
Yeah.
Midol every
Yeah.
day.
No, it's true.
Um,
Yeah.
right? So there are some natural things in high CBD products. It really affects your autoimmune system and recalibrates your autoimmune system to go back to its natural state of your own natural state of homeostasis.
Okay.
Like it's not about what you want to achieve. It's like bringing yourself into that
Right.
balanced frame that you've been born with,
Mhm.
and then work from there. Right.
Well, and it's like, I mean, you do really see a lot of women now looking more into things, specifically when it does come around like periods and things like that for hormonal balance and stuff. And I see so many posts and a lot of other podcasts actually that really talk about women's hormones and how painful periods aren't supposed to be painful. And you're not supposed to have all these other symptoms and all of these other things. So there is a lot more conversation around it. And I think knowing that there is, say, products out there that are more natural and things, like you suggested, that can help and aid in that instead of having to rely on, the other stuff when you're trying to do something holistic for your body to find that balance, knowing that there's things that you can kind of help and use that are in that same, realm of natural, right?
And it's not also about getting stoned or
Mhm.
getting high. You don't actually have to get high. There's some great products out there. And, we're talking about periods and we're talking about, intimacy and menopause and hormonal fluctuations. Alcohol and caffeine can be huge contributors to amplifying um, our hormonal challenges for
Mhm.
sure. And if we switch to some cannabis drinks that have some great like canned social tonics are one of my favorites, and they also have like herbs in them, and they're fantastic. There's turmeric in them, and there's sage, and there's cucumber and cranberry, and all sorts of great other products in there. Then they're high CBD. They're only 2.5 milligrams, I think,
Okay.
per
Yep.
drink. So you can pick up a 4 pack of those instead of a bottle of wine, and you can drink those over the course of a night. You might get, your 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 milligrams
Mhm.
over a period of time, but that's really not a lot of difference than drinking a whole bottle of wine, and then you get anxiety and you're gonna wake up the next
Yeah.
day with anxiety and you're gonna be depressed and why did I text that guy or why did I say that or
Right, so
whatever,
you're
right?
more in
We've all been there.
control almost, right? With it being like that. Don't get me
Mhm.
wrong, there's been times where, like I have taken, because I do take very small amounts, like an edible, but cut up in such tiny pieces that just enough to kind of, same thing, shut down my brain a little bit, relax me. And there's been those times where it's like I've done it, and you're kind of up with, like, say, a partner, and we have started to be intimate together, and I can honestly tell you those are some of the best times I've had, because it's just like the relaxation of being able to be so present in feeling everything that's happening in my body and not thinking about everything and anything else has been absolutely next level. Like, it's just this deep head to toe, feeling. Everything is heightened. And it was just amazing. And it really was one of those, like, beautiful, intimate moments where, like, you're feeling things on another level like you've never felt before, compared to with alcohol, where it's like, you're kinda numbing a lot of the feeling, and, like, same thing, it's like you wake up in the morning, you're like, "Oh, what did we do? Oh, I think I said something stupid," or whatever, whereas, like, with the cannabis, it's just a completely different experience that you remember all of it the next day, and you're just like, "I wanna get to that again," right? I wanna feel like that again, compared to the alcohol one where you're like, "Why did I do that?"
And you make such a great point. That's an incredible point that I don't think anyone's ever really talked about on a podcast before that I've heard, and I've listened to hundreds of them, maybe thousands of them. Is yes, being present
Mhm.
and after the fact, remembering the feeling and wanting that
Yeah.
euphoria back again, and that it makes you feel all warm and fuzzy, and you're happy and you connected to your with your partner. Whereas you're 100% right. The next day, if you're not remembering what
Mhm.
you did and you don't feel good about yourself, then you're starting to increase your anxiety around, did I do something wrong? Did I look
Mhm.
okay? Did I do that right? Did I do something too much? Did I, not do enough? Or you start second guessing yourself and start thinking, oh my God, now I'm
Yeah.
embarrassed, or I'm having some self shame or whatever. Whereas with cannabis, you don't have to get super high. You can get really intimate. There can be really connection
Mhm.
moments, and there can be really funny moments where you might just laugh together, and that releases some endorphins and some dopamine as well. So that connection is so much nicer. And yeah, not waking up the next morning feeling like, oh no, what
Oh, yeah.
happened, and I didn't mean to do that.
Oh,
Or
yeah.
feeling super
Yeah.
embarrassed, right? And your mascara is running down your face, and you're like a hot
Yeah.
mess. And for a woman, we take those things so personally. And we already go in to a situation with any man feeling more vulnerable. So definitely don't want to wake up more vulnerable than you went in. That's
No.
for
The
sure.
amount of times too, it's like I think it's like I recall, like, and thankfully it was somebody I was seeing on a regular basis, but it's like, yeah, you had too many. And the next day they're like, "Do you remember when you said?" And it's like, "No, please do not remind me when I said that in the middle of what we were doing." Like, that was the tequila talking, and, like, I regret saying that, but in the times where it's the other, it's just like there's just more of that calmness when you're together, and for them too. And it's kind of nice because I feel like a man then gets to see us in that space of being so connected to our bodies, and they then
Mm-hmm.
see that every little touch that they do creates a whole different type of pleasure and sensation, and then they get excited because they see how we're so excited about every little touch, right? So there's that, back and forth of them, like, understanding that the smallest of touches can have the biggest impact for us pleasure wise. Whereas when you're more
Yeah.
sober, if you're drinking, it's like you don't really get that because you're going through things faster. There's more of this aggression to the sex you're having when you're drinking, whereas when you've relaxed in with a different type of drug, or with cannabis, it's just it's so different. It's more of a spiritual, connected type of sexual intimacy that you are getting to experience together, right? And I know they love
Yeah.
that.
I couldn't agree with you more. I was just watching something recently on like erogenous zones of women, and we have like over
Hmm.
40 erogenous zones, like the back of our knees, the crease of our elbow, of our arms, the back of our necks, the bottoms of our feet, things like that. And when you're in that moment, those things, you're far more aware of where your sensations are coming from. Whereas, sometimes when you're really drunk, and you're having sex, it can be really fun and exciting in the moment, but you're also like, you know, oh, what just happened? You can lose sight
Mhm.
of like what's even happening sometimes. And then, hopefully you don't get sick, and hopefully you're not feeling like terrible about
Oh,
yourself,
yeah.
and all of those things. So, those are really interesting parts about like getting into an experimentation with integrating cannabis into your sex life, and having people, stay low, go slow. You don't need to race to
Mhm.
the finish line, just like sex. Take it easy. You did a really good podcast with your friend. Gosh, I can't remember which one it was. It was one of your few months ago, I guess. But you were talking about too about hygiene and
Oh,
sex, and I was
yes.
like, oh my god, you know what? Get into a bath with a bath bomb first.
Yeah.
And so, like, hey men, like, it's nice to actually have a bath with your partner or have a shower with your partner, and you know hang out and use some of these products, and get intimate with each other. And then for a woman, you guys said it's dead on, like, you know go wash your
Mhm.
hands, go clean yourself up. We don't always want you to come in from wherever you are and start touching us all over the place. And that's just a reality. It's like, especially now in the world we live in today, where we're so hyper about germs
Yeah.
and everything. Like, I think becoming intimate with somebody, like, started off with a really cool bath and put a bomb in there and have a cannabis bevy, light some candles, you know, and then maybe vape, or if you want to, or have split an edible, and like just go low and slow and start, get some massage oil
Mhm.
out, and you know very forward, and start talking to each other too. And sometimes cannabis can make you really chatty, and that comes down to terpenes as well. Like, get to know what things are. You mentioned you get
I
paranoid,
do.
and that's often because you're probably getting way too much myrcene in your cannabis, and things that are causing you to, amp yourself up a little
Okay.
bit. So the terpene profiles are super important. I know for myself, I always equate it to like what I like to eat. I'm a big citrusy kind of person, so I like limonene because it's uplifting, and it's like eating lemons
Yeah.
or limes in your drinks, your orange juice and things like that. I like myrcene. I kind of stay really low on if I can, just because it really enables the THC uptake. So it's a carrier for THC. Really, it's like they kind of
Okay.
bros in that
So how would
department.
somebody know if the products that they were looking at had those in it? Like, does it clearly say that on a bottle? Okay.
More and more products are starting to label their terpene ingredients, or their terpene
Mhm.
profiles, if you will, on their products. And if you don't know, the internet's great. You can research, and again, reach out to the companies directly if you're not getting the answers you want from their website or from the bud tender, or because not every bud tender can be well versed in every single product, and some of them. We had this conversation recently in a women's group. Would you walk into a cannabis store and say, hey, I'm having really bad period cramps, I need a suppository, and some young bud tender is standing there looking at you like, holy shit, like,
Oh, yeah.
what, you're old enough to be my mom, or you're, like, what's happening? She's talking to me about her
Yeah.
period, and that's going to freak somebody out, right? So call the companies directly that are making them, or email them directly. Their websites are there. They're ready to answer your questions and support
Yeah,
you.
it's so true. Because, and I mean, a lot of women probably have a lot of, maybe they're not even comfortable going to the stores themselves just in general because maybe they don't want to look like a person who is buying these products. Um, so to know that there is somewhere else you can kind of reach out to, or to the companies directly, or different places and sites and stuff to get that information as well, is way better than going in somewhere and trying to stumble around having that. And especially if there's other customers in the store, who's going to be talking about lubes and things like that when there's people buzzing around that are just looking for a blunt to, you know, carry on with their day and get high, where we're looking to have an actual conversation of getting some real information on some products for health benefits, right? So,
Yeah. Yeah, I think you make a great point there too. Is like, there is a stigma for sure. That's very prevalent out there. Um, but I remember, I want to I want to inspire people to go into
Mhm.
stores. They are regulated, they're legal. It's totally like just go in, and if you're worried about people seeing you, you can buy online and get it delivered. You can do online chats with the bud tenders. You can make it as anonymous as you
Yeah,
want,
okay.
really. And and at the end of the day, like, you know, most people going in to buy their blunts or their weed or whatever they're doing, they couldn't care less
Yeah, that's
what
true.
you're up to,
Yeah.
right? Like, you're already in an environment where most people are like, stigma what? And they don't care. And if anything, they're so much more open to what, you do you kind of thing. I hate that phrase, but
Yeah.
it is that kind of thing. Like no one's in there judging you. And if anything, if somebody's hearing you talk about it, they'd be like, oh, kind of curious, like, oh, I heard this at the cannabis store that someone was in there buying suppositories or bath bombs or lube or this or that, like, or what they were using it for. And find your local store that you're most
Mhm.
comfortable with. Get to know some of the staff in there, or reach out. Like you can follow me on my Instagram too, and that'll be posted. I think you guys are going to post that, but
Yeah,
reach
absolutely.
out. I'm happy. Yeah, I'm always happy to point people in the right direction. And I know tons of stores across the country and lots of women in the cannabis industry that are more than happy to answer questions anytime
Okay.
and point you in the right direction, and have really, great conversation with, and not ashamed about like what we're talking about.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. And I mean, it kind of is one of those things where I think too with certain things like that, it is kind of taking back control for ourselves over some of those issues that we have or those concerns that we have, or taking back just like the control of trying to find different routes, I guess, for us to go as far as bringing different types of intimacy into our relationship with, say, using, edibles and things like that, the bath bombs, right? So it's a cool product that you can go buy and then say to your partner, "Hey, let's try this," or "I heard about this, let's try it and see if we like it. So let's see if it works for us." That's kind of a fun thing too. I feel like because overall, I mean, some couples who I don't like the word vanilla, but people who are in like the different type of lifestyles, that's typically what they call, people in the non-lifestyle, the vanilla people out here having vanilla sex lives, right? But it's a way where you can introduce something else, something different that's still safe between you and your partner without having to, outsource something that's kind of not what you're comfortable with. And it's something different and it's intriguing and it's, like you said, you can play around with it, play around with different things, the lubes, the suppositories, the bath bombs, the drinks. There's so many different things and products that people can try together. And it's kind of a new experience that you can do together, which is what I really like for it.
yeah, 100%. I'm have a massage certification as well, so I really like, you know massaging my partner, and they can consume, and I can consume, and then there's connection
Mhm.
there, especially if you're working hard together, and you're just creating that intimate space. So it's not always just about the act of having sex. It's about being with your partner and touching them, and even having some fun laughs with
Mhm.
them and giggling about something, and kitchen dance parties, and making food together, and what that looks like for you in intimacy, even for a vanilla
Mhm.
couple. It doesn't have to be that we are not comfortable being stoned while we have sex, or there's some intimacy stuff there. There's way different ways, so many different ways that you can connect with each
Mhm.
other and have some fun, that might lead to
Yeah.
the bedroom or somewhere, or the kitchen table or the counter or
Yeah,
whatever you're
absolutely.
into. Like, those things are really, can lower your inhibitions without, different than alcohol, where alcohol can lower your inhibitions, but you often are left with
Yeah.
regret. And that we all know too
Oh,
well,
for sure.
I
Yeah,
think.
it's so true. You know what? Like
Yeah.
I actually said to a friend probably about 2 years ago, um ever since I had gotten divorced, every sexual encounter I'd had, every guy that I was dating, when we would get together, it always started with, drinks. And I was kind of in a situation where there was somebody that I was going to be being intimate with it, but alcohol was not an option. And I said to my friends, I was like, I have not been with anybody sexually in almost 2 years without having alcohol first. Like, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if like how to do this. I don't know how to have those moments where it's like, it kind of makes you do something maybe that you wouldn't want to. Or there's times when a friend would invite me to a sexual encounter and I'd be like, okay, I guess as long as I have 4 or 5 drinks, right? And it's like, because then you're going to do something you probably wouldn't, right? But it was that first thing. So there's like, I don't really drink anymore and I don't really like to drink anymore because I don't like the way that it makes me feel. But it's like, I still want to be intimate with people without being, so nervous. And sometimes you want to have something else to kind of just lighten the mood. So, cannabis is a great, alternative, like you said, where you don't feel like shit afterwards and you don't feel like shit
Yeah.
during. And, you're not like, oh, I drank too much because it's very thin, slippery slope of I've had one drink and I feel kind of good. And then all of a sudden you've had three and, you feel horrible. So it is nice for people who aren't big drinkers to introduce something else into their lives, their sex lives, just their life in general to try and to see if it can work for them, right? So I love that that is an option.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, my partner doesn't drink at all. Um, and cannabis is a huge, we both work in the industry. It's a huge
Mhm.
part of our lives. And, but at the same time, like, it helps me drink less because I'll drink a cannabis drink
Right.
instead. Or I've stopped smoking cannabis as I said, but I really got into
Mhm.
concentrates, and I just at this stage in my life, and I think maybe my my normal constitution of who I am has changed hormonally and physically, and I've had a I have a grown child. I've gone through
Mhm.
lots of different experiences, divorce and all that kind of stuff too. Lots has changed, right? Not only physically and physiologically, but mentally, emotionally, psychologically, all of those things, evolve and transform. And I've started. I love concentrates now. I occasionally will dab, but I don't. It's not my
Mhm.
favorite. But I do make THCA diamond caramels. So I get a little caramel treat. And for me, I don't get heady, stoned at all. I get a little energetic. I giggle a little. I feel very connected to my own
Yep.
body. And I just love the feeling of the THCA seems to work for me. And most people would be like, "Oh my God, you don't smoke weed, but you dab," and I'm like, "Well, you don't have to like do a
Mhm.
lot. You can take a couple little hoots and you can be fine. Just because you're consuming cannabis doesn't mean your main objective is to get so lit you can't,
Right.
can't do anything else. And I think that's something I'd like people to think about. It's, just because you're seeing a lot of social media and a lot of content out there that's all about big blooms of smoke and big blunts and the Seth Rogans of the world that are like, yeah,
Mhm.
like all that kind of stuff. That's not necessarily how you have to consume cannabis.
Right.
It can be a slow roll,
No, it's
right?
so
And
true.
you can
Yeah.
find lots of different products out
Yeah.
there. So you're not going to go home and chug a 40 of vodka, um,
Yeah.
right? So, well, like, let's hope not. But I mean, but I mean, at the end of the day, yeah. And to your point before, which I love that you said too, is like, there's some things sexually I know in my past that I definitely needed a few drinks
Mhm.
first. There's some things that you start experimenting and getting into, and it's like, ooh, I need a few drinks before I'm gonna
Right?
gonna do that tonight, right? And things like that. So, but it's getting into trying different options and opportunities that are coming into our world now that are especially in
Mhm.
Canada. We're really lucky. I think we need to be considering ourselves lucky that we can now go into stores and we have
Yeah.
options,
Oh, for sure.
and it's not just
Yeah.
booze, right? So
No,
yeah,
it's so
that's
true.
that's important.
Awesome. Well,
Yeah,
thank you so much
for
for
sure.
all of the information. It's been very informative. And I mean, as somebody who does frequent those places, I didn't even realize that these products were available. For everybody listening, though, for them to be able to reach out to you, to find you, to have conversations, where can they find you?
You can find me at the Entourage Co., which is my business, and that's my social media, my Instagram
Okay.
account. Or you can look me up on LinkedIn at Christina Michael, or you can find me. I'm going to give you all of my social media information. You can look me up at underscore Christina.Michael on Instagram. Happy to answer questions. Happy to point people in the right direction. I'm excited about where the cannabis industry is going to go. I'm excited. Maybe next year we'll talk about the decriminalization of psychedelics and other substances that are BC is decriminalizing in 2023, and where what's happening in those realms too, because it is really a matter of safety
Mhm.
first. Just caution everyone: be safe. It is safe to consume. It's in the most highly regulated, if not that most highly regulated industry in the world is working in cannabis, and how the products are handled and the quality control and the testing. I mean, take care of yourselves, go low,
Yeah.
go slow. That's the reason why it's out there. And if you're confused, contact the company
Okay.
directly. Don't just look at kind of, don't WebMD yourself into cannabis situations,
Right.
and then it ends up being a bad result, and then you never want to try it again, right? So I just caution people to make sure that there's lots of people out there that are willing to
Okay.
help. So just reach out anytime and we'll point you in the right
Yeah, I would
direction.
love that. So for the companies that you did list at the beginning, do they have websites as well? Do they have information, places that people can go to look at
They
those
all
project
do.
products as well? Okay, perfect. So
Absolutely. And I'll provide those with you
awesome.
for you
Yeah.
as
And then
well.
I can, for everybody listening, you guys can look at those companies directly. We'll put it in the show notes for you so you guys know where to go to get some of this information and to look at the different products. And then you can reach out to them directly as well. So perfect.
Awesome. And you're in
I
Alberta,
am.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You're in
Yeah.
Eastern. Yeah, I'll connect you with some of my friends in that
Yeah. I
area
would love to
that
try
are
some of this
definitely.
stuff. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, prairie grass is in Alberta, northern Alberta, and Rebecca and Olivia, you'd love them. They're wonderful, and my friend Annalise is there, and Nora and Kylie, and all these incredible cannabis women that you are like just
Oh,
minutes
that would be
from.
amazing.
So
Cause yeah, like
we
there's
can,
things that I've
yes,
just haven't tried because I've always been a little bit worried that what if like I do sit in this bath bomb and then I get a little bit like, messed up and then I'm gonna be all anxiety. So it would be nice to actually connect with people that are creating these products and using them and then actually have some conversations.
yeah, yeah. And Jill's there too, and she's creating her blunt botanicals and bringing them back to market from the legacy space
Awesome.
into the regulated. So you're surrounded.
Perfect.
I mean, I'm sort of
Yeah.
jealous. You're surrounded by some of my closest
Where
friends.
are you in BC?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
in Vancouver.
Yeah.
Yeah. So lots of great stuff here too, and every province is different too. So that's the main thing, is like sometimes some of these products are only available in your province.
Okay.
Some of them are available in one or two, not across the board. So
Ah.
there's lots of different options when you're traveling to different provinces and different cities. They have a different selection of products out
Okay, good
there.
to know.
So that's kind of fun and
Yeah.
interesting too. But yeah, if just, reach out and reach out directly to the
Mhm.
company, the brand, the LP as well. They'll be happy to point you in the right direction. And there's tons of incredible independent retailers out there that are just a wealth of knowledge, and they do want to welcome you into their store, and they're
Mhm.
super fun and approachable, and they know what they're talking about.
Perfect. No, that's awesome. I love that. Well, thank you very much. And thank you to everybody listening. We'll get you guys all the information that you need so that you guys can find Christina. You can have the conversations and get some more information. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Sarah.